Both the Philadelphia Eagles and the New York Giants have received some bad news on the injury front going into this matchup, which has NFC East implications here in Week 7 at MetLife Stadium. That's what we're talking about on today's Philadelphia Eagles Now by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Sr., and no matter where you are or how you're tuned in, as always, I greatly appreciate all of you for making today's show a part of your day. And speaking of the show, we're going live later today, 5:30 p.m. Eastern, 2:30 p.m. out on the West Coast, and yesterday we did our Eagles-Giants preview. So if you want to watch that, it's already up on the channel. Everything that you need to know for this rivalry game is Philadelphia 16-4 against the Giants in their last 20 matchups, and Saquon Barkley will take on his former team. We're going to be doing a watch party for the game as well. So another programming alert. The show will get underway on Sunday for this Week 7 tilt, 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Live play-by-play, audience interaction, super chat giveaways, a pregame show, a postgame show. The best place to experience an Eagles game day outside of being at the actual game. So hit that sub button right now. Let's begin on the Eagles injury front. 2 injuries to talk about for the Birds, and then we'll get to a huge injury for the New York Giants, which impacts them in this game, but for the rest of the season. First, Jordan Mailata. He said himself that he'll miss the next few games due to a hamstring injury after that win against the Browns, in which Philadelphia squeaked out that win. He was seen in a sleeve and on crutches. He needed some help getting off the field, and then he got carted off the field for Philadelphia. And over the last couple of years, he has been a very durable player. Philadelphia is definitely going to miss him as Fred Johnson replaced him after the injury. He figures to get the start. Earlier this year, he filled in for Lane Johnson at right tackle when Lane missed that game against the Buccaneers. So for Fred Johnson, he's made himself valuable with having some versatility as a swing tackle for the Birds. Mailata here this year. Last year, he was the 3rd highest graded offensive tackle in football, and this year he was putting together another excellent season. An overall Pro Football Focus grade of 88.4, a pass blocking grade truly elite at 90.9, protecting the blind side for Jalen Hurts. Run blocking grade of 83.2, had only committed 2 penalties in 5 games, only giving up 1 sack. No quarterback hits surrendered, 8 pressures allowed, coming on 325 total snaps. And when you think about this matchup between Philadelphia and New York, Eagles offensive line, one of the top offensive line units in the National Football League. They'll miss Jordan Mailata. It's good to have Lane Johnson back. And the New York Giants have one of the best defensive lines in football, led by these 2 stalwarts in Dexter Lawrence and the offseason acquisition in Brian Burns. Dexter Lawrence is such a unique player because he has 7 sacks from the nose tackle position. So he lines up right over the center. It'll be a huge assignment for Cam Jurgens, but Dexter Lawrence has those 7 sacks when he's still getting double-teamed by left guards and right guards. Truly one of the more dominant overall players and defensive players in the NFL. Overall PFF grade just shy of 90. He's excellent against the run at 83.6. So I have to imagine Philadelphia is really going to try to get Saquon Barkley going toward the perimeter and away from Dexter Lawrence, and then the Eagles offensive line will really try to double team him because he could take over the game. Pass rushing grade of 78.4. He has 11 stops, 13 hurries, 24 pressures on 196 pass rushing snaps. And then this offseason, back in March, the Giants made a huge splash. They traded for Brian Burns, and then they gave him a bag. He really broke out on Sunday Night Football against the Cincinnati Bengals. This year, he has 3 sacks. He, like Lawrence, who otherwise is known as Sexy Dexy, good against the run, good against the pass. Overall PFF grade for Burns of 84.3. Run defense grade of 72.4, pass rush grade of 76.4. Since coming out of Florida State, he's continued to be one of the top edge rushers in the game. A lot of people just didn't realize that because he played for the dumpster fire Carolina Panthers. 16 stops for Burns this year, 16 hurries, 22 pressures on 187 pass rushing snaps. And this Giants defense is no joke. It's a reason why They've somewhat exceeded expectations. Like a lot of people thought the G-Men were going to be one of the worst teams in all of football. And it's another reason why they've also stayed close in a lot of these games. They're 6th in touchdowns allowed defensively, 1st in sacks, 1st in sack rate, and 2nd for TFLs. So you're going to miss Jordan Mailata in this game, but it's a huge game for Landon Dickerson, Cam Jurgens, Mekhi Becton, and Lane Johnson, because the only reason I think the Giants are able to upset Philadelphia in this game is if they control the line of scrimmage with their defense, they completely halt the Eagles' offensive attack, and then in the process, they confuse and confound this Eagles' offensive attack, and they're able to generate some turnovers. Last week, Philadelphia didn't turn the football over at all, and we did see some signs of improvement and growth for that Eagles offense, and hopefully that continues, but it won't be easy without the likes of Mailata. But the Giants suffering an injury on their offensive line. We'll talk about that coming around the corner. But first, today's poll question is this: what is your level of confidence in an Eagles win over the Giants? Scale it for me from 1 to 10, and if you hate the Giants, you can type FNYG down in the comment section as well. Be sure to download the Game Time app if you're looking for the best seats for the lowest price guaranteed, and you love going to sporting events, concerts, comedy shows, theater events, and more. You will get in the door with the best vantage point, and you'll be able to save money on your tickets. Prices drop as the event gets closer. That's what sets Game Time apart from all of the other ticketing apps and what is a very crowded marketplace, but this is the only app that I use. You can see the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. And if you download the app, you create an account, and you use the code CHATSPORTS right here, you redeem that code, you get $20 off your purchase. Terms apply. First purchase only. If you want to go to this game, head up I-95 to East Rutherford to the Meadowlands. Plenty of tickets available at MetLife Stadium and what is going to be a lively atmosphere because there are always a lot of Eagles fans who go to these games against the Giants on the road. And of course, Giants fans will be showing out as well. And it's a stadium in which there's not really a bad seat in the house. As you can see that vantage point from your seats. But if you want to see an Eagles game at home, you can do that. I host sports talk shows for a living, so sometimes I like to unplug and get out of the sports realm, and that's why I like to pop up the Game Time app to see what's going on in my area as far as concerts and comedy shows. So, terms apply, first purchase only. Use that code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Another Eagles injury to get to here before we get to the Giants front. According to Jeff McClain, Dallas Goedert expected and could miss a few games as well. He, too, dealing with the hamstring issue. He only played 3 snaps against Cleveland. He was targeted on that third down on the opening drive of the game, and then he immediately left. We didn't see him again. Nick Sirianni said today during his news conference that Goedert will not practice today, but he did say, I'm not going to rule him out just yet because of his toughness, but soft tissue injury, hamstring, a player with an injury history. Jeff McClain is very plugged into the Eagles, so I would trust his reporting here that the Eagles might be without Goedert for a couple of weeks. And a few weeks ago against the New Orleans Saints, he was the MVP of that ball game alongside Saquon Barkley. And given his impact as a blocker and as a pass catcher, that Swiss Army knife on the offensive side of the football, another big injury for Philadelphia here as they go into Week 7. And there's certainly, over time, been a Dallas Goedert dilemma. Dallas Goedert is one of the top all-around tight ends in the NFL for that blocking and pass-catching impact, the mismatches that he's able to pose toward opposing defenses. But he's been injured a lot, has not played a full season since his rookie year. Back in 2018, he played in 16 games with 8 starts. Of course, Zach Ertz was ahead of him on the Eagles' depth chart. In 2019, 15 games with 9 starts. In 2020, only played 11 games with 9 starts. 2021, 15 games, 14 starts. 2022, the Super Bowl year, 12 games, 12 starts. Last year, 14 games, 14 starts. And here in 2024, he had played in every game, 5 with 5 starts. 88 games, 71 starts throughout his career. But you see the track record here. Since he was drafted by Philadelphia in 2018 out of South Dakota State, he has been an off-injured player. Now, in his place will be Grant Calcaterra, who I've always said has a lot of pass-catching ability, but he's just not the blocker that Dallas Goedert is in the run game and in the pass game. But Calcaterra popped against Cleveland. I thought he had the best game of his career statistically, but also with how he looked and had a couple of big catches and some big moments and was able to rumble downfield, picking up some yards after the catch. 4 catches for 67 yards. Hurts able to connect with him on a couple of big plays throughout the duration of that ball game. As for the Giants injury news, tough news coming in this morning for the G-men. Left tackle Andrew Thomas underwent successful surgery for a Lisfranc injury, and he is expected to be out for the rest of the year. Ian Rappaport breaking the news this morning that Thomas, one of the NFL's best offensive tackles, had that successful surgery. He was meeting with doctors yesterday on Monday, and that surgery to repair that Lisfranc injury in his foot, and it's always an injury that requires a long recovery and rehab process. Thomas, 4th overall pick back in 2020, out of Georgia where he was a star. First 3 years in the NFL, he was durable. 16 games, 13 games, 16 games. But then after year 3, the Giants kind of got ahead of the market. They signed him to a 5-year, $117.5 million contract. But since signing that contract extension, making him one of the NFL's highest paid offensive tackles, he played 10 games last year, 6 games this year, so only 16 total games since signing that big deal. Here in 2024, a big cog for why this Giants offensive line was playing well and exceeding expectations. Now, they've gotten nothing from Evan Neal. The former Alabama draft pick has absolutely flopped, but Thomas was the leader and protecting the blind side for Daniel Jones, an overall PFF grade this year of 75.4, pass blocking grade of 71.8, run blocking grade of 73.8, so not as good of a player production-wise or on tape as Jordan Mailata, but still one of the top left tackles in the game for sure. 3 penalties, 4 sacks, 4 hits allowed, 16 pressures allowed. Sometimes that's because Daniel Jones holds onto the ball a little bit too long because he's very indecisive. But this is big for this matchup on Sunday because this Eagles defensive line is starting to find a groove. Some players are gathering some confidence. They had really good sack production against Cleveland. But when Daniel Jones is pressured, he will put the ball up for grabs. And even when he's not pressured, he is prone to turning the ball over, and Thomas protects that blind side for Daniel Jones. And sometimes that internal clock for the quarterback starts to be a little bit faster, and the panic level starts to be panic-stricken for these QBs when they know they can't trust what's happening behind them because they don't have eyes in the back of their head. The Eagles against the Browns, Cleveland was giving up 5.2 sacks per game going into last week, and that was 32nd in the NFL. Eagles able to put together a 5-sack performance, and I loved what I saw from the Eagles generating a pressure or pressures with 4 guys, but also how Vic Fangio dialed up some blitzes. And it was just good to see a couple of players start to turn the corner, hopefully, for the rest of the year. Josh Sweat had a sack. Vic Fangio said yesterday that Nolan Smith is getting better every game. That's what you want to see from a former first-round pick who up to this point is off to a slow start in his career, but he has twitch, he has speed, he has a relentless motor. Even when you think he's out of a play, he'll make a play. So it's good to see that from Nolan Smith. It's good to see Bryce Huff finally get on the board with the half sack. Jalen Carter can be one of the top defensive tackles in the game. Cooper DeJean helped force 2 sacks, and then Milton Williams, Thomas Booker, they got in on the action as well. So a programming reminder once again, Eagles Now will be live 5:30 p.m. Eastern, 2:30 p.m. Pacific here on this Wednesday, October 16th. We'll catch you soon. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to hit that sub button.